Okay, so hello guys. The paper I chose to bring you today is Differential Evolution Framework for Budget Optimization in Marketing Models with Saturation in Adstock Effects. This is a pretty big name. There is a lot of information around here. This is a paper that I wrote with some fellow researchers and professors of mine, and it was published last month. So it's pretty up to date, and it basically tells a new way to perform marketing optimization. That is a huge problem that we have today. Uh, so to make this presentation a little more dynamic, I've wrote some notes that I will be so switching between the paper and the notebooks, because there are some concepts I believe are important for us to know. And since this is an 8 pages paper, there wasn't much room to explain all of those. So I'll bring them here. I'll bring them here. Sorry. So basically, what were my motivations to talk about this and to think of something like this? As we know, today companies spend a huge amount of money on advertising. This is true for big companies. This is true for small companies. At some point, the marketing is the most part of the budget of some companies, because of the amount of concurrency we have today and the competition on the marketing. So it is very important to use this value smart, so we don't overspend, so that we can reach our objectives. And there is still a lot of marketing made based on feeling out there. So we are talking about big companies, we are talking about small companies. There are still a lot of growth teams of marketing teams in a lot of companies that they doesn't really know what they're doing. So they're doing things based on what they somehow saw in some place, and let's go by trial and error. So you have a lot of money going out around there without knowing if you are having any results. Uh, so I believe those are very important models that many of you probably wouldn't know about. Today we have a lot of LLMs being created every day, a lot of Gen AI, but there aren't a lot of research on marketing models, and this is one of the points that I think it's important for us to talk about. So when we talk of marketing models, we are talking on statistical models focused on telling us how our marketing campaigns are doing. If we are reaching our customers, if we are spending smart our money. So we could be talking about attribution models, we could be talking about A/B tests, about market researches, sentiment analysis models. Those are very tied to LLMs. This is a kind of model that is on the rise today, and many other kinds of models. But for this specific use case, for predicting uh, what would be our investment to optimize our budget, we must use the marketing mix model. So basically, those are the MMMs some of you have heard me talking about already. And these are statistical models designed to measure the effectiveness of each media channel on our results. So you want to know how was the impact of Facebook, of YouTube, of the advertising you run on TV on the result you had at a given time window. So basically, you model a time series of your marketing data. You have like the amount you spend or the impressions you have, and you gather some context variables, some things that could impact on your results, so your competitor sales or your competitor prices, and you model it to try to predict your results at that time. I don't like the term predict. I have a strong opinion that MMMs are not predictive tools, they are inferring tools. But it works pretty much the same. And today, most tools we have, most literature we have on these, usually build this kind of models on linear regressions. So it's very similar to the regular linear regressions we have. But here we have the some particularities that are the carryover effect and the saturation effect. I have mentioned some of these some presentations ago, but I never had the chance to go deeper into those concepts. And since we have a little more time today, I think it's important just to mention, to explain a little of them. So basically, the Adstock, when you talk about it, it is a concept that has been studied since the 60s. And at the start, people were trying back in the 60s to predict what was the correlation between the TV advertising and the sales for a given brand or a given store. And what they found with their studies is that basically every advertising may carry both an immediate effect and a long-term effect. So it may carry its effect over time. That's why the advertising carryover. And so basically, at a given time, at a given any time, the accumulated investment that we would have, it would be the effect of that immediate investment plus the residuals of the investments we made before that. So it's all changed. Uh, Mathematically, let me get back to the paper, we could express this with this little function here. So the Adstock that we have at any given time is basically the sum of the investments that we made before that time multiplied by a constant of decay. So how much your investment decay after some days or some weeks, depends on the time that you are modeling it. And when they first studied this concept, they use it to model it with a fixed decay rate. So your decay would be the same over each day, and it usually works nice. This is what we call the geometric Adstock, and it usually works nice with classical media channels like TV, like radio, like the old school media. But since now we have some very different media, we have like TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and all of the digital channels that works totally different. Some recent studies proposed a different way to measure this effect. So they found that the fixed decay rate may not apply anymore, and some of them proposed some different approaches. I believe the approach that works the better with both cases is the Weibull Adstock, because it allows for a non-fixed decay. You may have a slow decay at the beginning and then a sudden drop, and you may have and another a lot of other distributions for this Adstock. So for this particular use case, one form of Adstock that I have used in my experiments and that showed a good result both for classical medias like TV and radio and for digital medias is the survival Weibull Adstock, where you basically substitutes this constant here for this little Weibull function that is tied to the time that you are analyzing it, and some slope and decay rate here. Basically here, I brought you a comparison on both Adstock methods. The first one here, we have the geometric Adstock. This is the classical Adstock. So we have a constant decay. So basically your decay here at the day one is half of what you had on day zero. On the day two, it is half of day one, and so on. And with Weibull Adstock here at the right, you don't necessarily have this constant decay. You may have something close to the geometric, but you also may have something totally different. And since it adapts well to a lot of situations, I think it's a usually a good choice. And why say this Adstock is an important thing? I brought here. Let's jump some pages, then we get back. Here is an example I brought to explain how the Adstock works. Here, basically, we have the same investment on the same media channel with just a different distribution along time. On the first case, we have a single investment of 100,000, and we can see in the gray bars how the Adstock decay over time. So here in the black is the real investment, and in the gray ones is like the virtual investment, that is the Adstock. And on the right one, we have 10 little insertions of 10,000, and look at the Adstock, how it is completely different. So it starts accumulating with the result from the day before until it gets no more investment. Then it starts decaying, and it probably goes on until it fully decays for more like 10 or 20 time units. And now you ask me which one of those is the better, and it depends. So because of this, we have to check out the saturation curve of the media we are working with. And the saturation is the second concept that I believe is important for us to know. Basically, the saturation is also studied since the 60s. A fun fact here is that the first paper that mentioned something like this, it is not related to marketing at all. It was a psychology paper when they basically studied the effect of overexposure of any message to an individual and see what's the result of this. And when they applied this to marketing, they discovered that every media channel also have like an exposure limit, and past that limit you don't have the same result that you would have before. That means you are impacting the same customer more times than you should, and you are just throwing money away. And usually since the 80s, it is common for us to model this as a sigmoidal, so a logistic function. And this is what it would like, a common saturation curve. This is what we would usually see for a generic media channel. So we would have the value of Adstock. This is a very important information. I've saw a lot of companies out there that plots this curve as a function of the real investment, and this is totally wrong. As I just showed you with this image before, the same amount of money can have a totally different outcome on terms of Adstock. So it's a function of the Adstock, and for each value of Adstock, there is a result that you may have. This, when we talk about result, we could be talking about your gross revenue, we could be talking about the profit, or it depends on what you're modeling it over. But basically, every media channel has a saturation curve like this. You may have this low growth from the beginning where you are spending so little that your advertising just dissipates and you don't have return at all. And you also have a saturation point, which past that point, you are just throwing money away because you won't have a huge increase on the result you have. And so for this particular use case, I chose to model this with this form of the Hill function. Is a variation of a 4-parametric Hill function. This is usually a biochemistry equation, but it just fits well to the majority of this problem. So we have the result you would have, your return, as a function of your Adstock here. And now I believe the other important concept that we need to know, here is where the thing starts to get nice, is the optimization algorithm. So when we talk about optimization, we are talking about finding the best viable solution for a given problem. So you want to maximize it, you want to minimize it. Currently, there are a vast a vast kind of algorithms out there. Every new day, people came up with a new algorithm for optimizing anything. And this image basically shows some of the most known algorithms today. This is not close to what there is out there, but it's pretty shows us some of the important ones. So we are inside the meta heuristic approach. Those are like general tools to fit to any problem. And inside this, we have the swarm-based algorithms. Those are population algorithms that they are usually modeled upon animals' behavior. So we have the bee colony, we have an ant colony, the firefly algorithm, the dragonfly, the bat algorithm, the wolf algorithm, and so on. Every day, someone comes up with an algorithm based on something. We have the trajectory-based algorithms. I confess I do not have much experience with those, but I know they are based on distance. So calculating distances, calculating the optimal routes. There are some specific applications for them as well. And we are in the evolutionary algorithms. I know some of you have some knowledge of those. I know that Arian and Pedro published a paper some years ago about evolutionary methods. And basically, an evolutionary algorithm, as the name suggests, simulates some concepts of biological evolution and natural selection. Here, the most common of those, I believe, is the genetic algorithm, which tries to simulate the natural evolution, thinking of genomes and chromosomes and things like that. So we have the process of the selection of the fittest, we have the mutation, we have the crossover between solutions. This is a very interesting concept. I suggest that I suggest that all of you pick some time to read about it. It's really a very, very crazy concept. And the differential evolution algorithm is basically based on the genetic algorithms. There is still that same characteristic of evolution based on the best traits of the older generation. So it picks the best traits of the parent solution to generate new solutions. But here we have some differences. For instance, the processes of mutation, of crossover for breeding new solutions is based on usually a vector of differences between the selected fathers, selected parents, and selected solutions from the older generation. And this usually causes the new solution at some time with some given probability to breed new solutions very different from the parent ones. So let's suppose you are searching on a little space between the search space of viable solutions for your problem, and then all of a sudden one of the created solutions, one of the offspring solutions is created totally different, and it jumps to the other side of the search space. And then it starts populating that other side of the search space. So it keeps jumping from one side to another with a given probability. This has some advantages and some disadvantages in relation to the genetic algorithm. So basically, because it keeps jumping from one side to another, it takes longer to converge. It is a heavier algorithm, more computation intensive, but it usually escapes better from local minima. So when you are talking about a problem that has multiple viable solutions, so multiple local solutions, sometimes you are using an algorithm that it keeps on a solution and it keeps getting deeper into it, and it never escapes that. In the differential evolution, since you have this capability to keep jumping from one side to another, you escapes this local minimal better. So it usually works better at finding the global solution of a problem. And this is implemented on the library SciPy on Python. If anyone wants to give it a try, is at scipy.optimize.something. Just check it out. it's really easy to implement it, and it's works really nice to a lot of problems. And now, how would we get all of these concepts together? So basically, let me get down here. Down here. Okay. So let's think of a real world problem. What we would have on a real world problem. Usually you have a marketing team or a growth team that asks you to create a marketing campaign. They give you a budget. Let's say you have 1 million reais to create a marketing campaign. They give you like a time which this campaign should run over, and they give you some platforms that where you should run this advertising. So this is what usually happen on a real world scenario. So what we would usually do, we would pick up this data, the raw data that we have. We would run this data to an MMM. We could choose like the any of the open source tools that we have, or a third party one, it, whatever you like. You apply the saturation and Adstock effect, supposing that the tool you chose doesn't do it automatically. You pick up this model data and applies your business conditions. So the amount of the budget you have, if you have some minimum value you must stick to. We know some marketing teams on some companies have a huge fear of missing out. So some of them have a minimum value which you should not trespass. So you pick up all these business conditions and you run an optimization process on them. And in this optimization process, what we want to maximize our ROAS. Our ROAS is the return on ad spend. It's basically how much you get on return over the value that you spend on advertising. So in this particular use case, we want to maximize the sum of the return we would have in all the media channels over the amount we invested it. It's a pretty simple concept. And for this, we have to do a two-step process. Let me get down here. Where is it? Down here. Okay. We would have to go through a two-step process, because let's suppose you have a total budget. You have this 1 million reais, and they said you must invest this 1 million reais on YouTube, on TV, and on radio. So the first step, you have to know how much you would invest on YouTube, how much you would invest on TV, and how much would go to radio. Okay, so this is the first step of algorithm, that is the global optimization. But not only that, once you have a designed value for each of these medias, you have to determine how you will distribute this value over time, because of the effects of the ad stock that I mentioned earlier. So you basically have to chain another algorithm to do this allocation. So how do we work here? It starts with an evolutionary algorithm over here to distribute this total budget you have over the media channels you have. So it will suggest some pairs of solutions, some solutions for you, and then it will kick in a new evolutionary algorithm inside every media channel that will pick up this value that the global one send us and distribute them over time. So let's suppose we sent like 10,000 to YouTube. So the evolutionary algorithm of YouTube would pick this 10,000, will allocate it through time, calculate the ad stock, evaluate the return based on the saturation curve of YouTube, and check it out if it's already on the best result. So if it is on the best result, it will distribute it again over time evaluate again the Adstock, the return, and check the result out. And it will keep iterating it. This is a an evolutionary algorithm totally apart from the first one. Once all of the media channels have their best result for this value, the global ones send them, they will send the result back to the global algorithm. The global algorithm will evaluate their ROAS, the total ROAS of the system, and will propose a new distribution of values for every media channel. So let's say we had proposed like 10,000 to YouTube. Now it will propose 100,000 to YouTube. So it will send the values again. Each of the medias will iterate over the distributions over time, check the results, and send it back to the global algorithm. So it basically is a goes in, goes out algorithm that keeps working until it reaches a global solution for the system. This is a very computational intensive algorithm. This takes some time to run, but it usually get results that other algorithm can't get. So it's at least for our experimental tests, it was a pretty solid solution. And how do we evaluate it? Uh, Basically, to avoid problems during the publication of all of this, I've chose to evaluate this, show how it works on a toy problem. So I pick up a toy data set that simulates a marketing data set of a company, and it really is very close to what we would actually see on a real company. I have linked it here on this notebook. I will get this notebook available for you after this meeting so you can check it out by yourself. And basically, I created a counterfactual scenario. And how does it work? We have this data set. Let me see if we have a we get this counterfactual scenario. So we got this toy data set that brings any media, brings every media channel for a company. Let's put it like that. And I modeled the marketing mix model over it with the ad stock and the saturation curves. And basically, I removed the last 6 entries of that database. So we evaluated the result with this last six weeks of data. So what would be the result of these original 6 weeks of data? And then I took off these last 6 weeks of data and let the algorithm work. Let it propose a new distribution for that time and evaluate again what would be the result if we had done what the algorithm proposed. So like a what if solution. And here I brought some of this is an example for one media channel. This works for, you run this over all the media channels. But here we have, so those are the last 6 weeks of the data set. Here we have the original spend. This is for outdoor media. And this is the original ad stock based on the original distribution on the like is the original data set just as it is. So basically we can see the original ad stock, it doesn't start on 0 because probably it already had older investment. This is an important point that many tools we have over there doesn't take into consideration. So it doesn't start on 0 and it doesn't end on 0 as well. So it will probably going on until it naturally decays. So we have to consider this long-term result on the calculations we made. And the optimized spend, as we can see, the algorithm just chose to put all the investment on the last week available. And why did it do that? Because much probably this is a media that was already saturated. So as we can see up here, here is the saturation curves for this toy problem. For both outdoor media is the gray one, and TV media is the black one. We were talking about outdoor media. So the gray curve here of outdoor media, we can see that is a media that saturates fast. So it benefits from lower values of ad stock. So in that problem we are talking here, we can see that it was already very saturated. So as a media that benefits from lower values of ad stock, the algorithm chose to just let the ad stock decay naturally until we don't have any other choice but to make the investment. If we had more time available, probably it would let the ad stock goes even more until it chose to put a new investment. Of course, here I didn't put any constraints of a minimum value to attend to, but it could have been put in. Let's say we don't want to, we want to keep at least 1,000 reais at each week. It would probably keep 1,000 reais at each week, and the rest of it would be arranged in the last available solution, the last available week. And as we can see, when evaluating this original scenario of the data set just as it is, we had a ROAS of 6.76. So for each real we spend of this with this media channel, we got in return 6.76 reais. Okay, so when we optimize this is the same value. Okay, so the same to 206,000 in both cases, just with a different distribution, we get a new ROAS of 7.81. So in this new case, for every real we spend on outdoor media, we would get in return 7.81 reais, almost 80 reais. So it is a nice increase if you think of a real scenario. And what we did next is to show how it works with a global set of data. So a lot of media channels, this is what we would usually see on a real company. So you have TV, you have outdoor media, you have print media, you have Facebook advertising and search advertising. So here we had the original spend on this 6-week period of the data set, and how were the market share of each media. And for this counterfactual scenario, to maintain a conservative approach, that's what we would usually do on a real company. We would never take a first model and propose like a 30% change on the market share. I proposed a change of up to 5% on the media channel, based on the original market share, on the original media share. So let's see, TV had an original media share of 56%. On the optimized scenario, it may vary up to 5% up or down based on the original share. And what we can see is that the algorithm took off money from medias that were not as viable, like TV. So it reduced the participation of TV, and it increased participation of medias that had more impact. So it increased Facebook, it increased print, and it increased even outdoor media that was already saturated. So why did it do that? Because even being a media that was already saturated, we can see that it has a potential of return higher than other medias. So this is a point that I always like to bring. Uh, with this, you can see how hard it is to make a prediction or to make to give a counsel to market teams or to growth teams without making proper calculations, with just looking on the charts, because it may lead to some mistakes, because this is totally counterintuitive, but it is indeed how it works on the real life, on the real scenarios. And here we have how the algorithm chose to spend this value over time for each media channel. So as we can see, TV, it chose to instead of pulverizing this value that they have, to give it a bigger spread, it chose to leave the last value without any investment at all. And why did it do that? Because TV, as we saw on the saturation medias, on the saturation curves, is a media that benefits from higher values of ad stock. So it chose to leave a concentration of ad stock on the first values instead of spreading this investment a little more. And even though it chose to take money out from TV and put it on out of home, even that it had to leave this value without any investment at all. So again, it is very hard to make predictions of this kind of problem without making the proper calculations. So this is just an example of how it works. For this particular use case, there was this value of this last 6 weeks was of 1.4 million, and this is a real low value. If you are working with a real company, you could see something like that. You could see like 10 times that value. Just as that, because companies really spend a lot of money with advertising. And in the original scenario, we had a ROAS of 1.91. So of these 1.4 million, we have a return of 1.91 times that. And in the original scenario, in the optimized scenario, that we took the same value, so without increasing the investment, we picked the same value and just redistributed it. We had an increase of 18%. So this, looking for a 6-week scenario, if we are able to optimize a campaign like a month, 2-month campaigns on a real scenario, usually what we see is an increase of values way higher than this. So I think this is important for us to see how important it is that we kept these concepts while talking about marketing campaigns, marketing money, because as I said, a lot of companies there use most of the budget they have with marketing campaigns. So we are talking about a lot of money that we could keep from spending and still have the same results. And well, I believe this was it. This part was just a demonstration of the algorithm. I believe the most important part was the concept of it, because it is easy to run a marketing model. You could just pick up any MMM tool that there are, like open source tools out there, and anyone could run it. But if you don't know the concepts, you will probably create a poor model and bring poor solutions, and those will not maintain itself over time. So I believe that was it. I hope everyone has understood what was the message. If anyone has any doubt, just let me know.